Once again, my name is Carrie Sampson. I am the Communications Manager here at Credential Engine. And today, our Credential Engine tech team is going to be showing you a new and easy way to add data to the Credential Registry. We're going to have a bit of an overview of how to set up an account and get ready to publish credential data to the registry. And then we've got a new tool that makes it super simple to upload and change information to the registry. We have, as you will see on your left-hand side, a chat box. If you have a question at any time, please feel free to use the chat box. We will be monitoring it for questions. We will also have later on an open Q&A session where you will be able to use your microphone, or if you've dialed in, use the phone to be able to ask a question verbally. But in the meantime, I do ask that you keep yourselves on mute. We will be muting microphones, but if you're on the phone, please keep yourselves on mute. If you have to take another call, for example, please hang up and jump back on so we don't get that hold music. We will also be recording this session. So after I wrap this at the end of our time together, we will be posting this webinar to our YouTube page, and will be sent around as a follow-up item. So if for any reason you have to step away, take another meeting, miss a portion, or want to go back, you will be able to access both this PowerPoint, which will be sent to you, as well as the full presentation. I want to make sure that everyone can hear us. So if you have just joined and haven't yet let me know that the audio is working, if you could just send a little chat to make sure that you can hear us on the phone. I see multiple attendees are typing, so I think that means we are good to go. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to my colleague. This is Jeannie Kitchen. She is the Assistant Director at the Center for Workforce Development at SIU. Jeannie, take it away.
All right, thank you, Carrie. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. So I will go over a little short PowerPoint presentation, and then Nate Argo, who is part of the technical team here at SIU CWD, will co-present with me. We'll do a demonstration. If at any time you have any trouble with the audio, let us know in the chat. We can copy-paste the phone number back in there. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. So today we're going to provide just a real brief overview of the Credential Engine technologies. Some of you may already be familiar with Credential Engine and joined this webinar to find out about the new publishing methods, but very likely there are also many of you on who are not so familiar. So we're going to spend just a very short time doing an overview. And we're going to talk about the multiple publishing methods that are available to publish credential information to the Credential Registry. But we're going to be highly focused on only one of those methods today. There will be additional follow-up webinars about the other ways of publishing to the Credential Registry. So we'll cover those in separate webinars. But today we're going to talk about bulk uploading credential information, and I'll do an overview, and Nate and I will do a demonstration, and we'll conclude with some action items for all who have joined the webinar today. We love conversation. We love questions and comments. Put them in the chat at any time, please, and we will pause and address them. So this is going to be a really high-level overview of the Credential Engine technologies. Again, feel free to ask questions. As a follow-up, we can provide more information or do another webinar that's a deeper dive. But it all begins with the Credential Transparency Description Language, or what we call the CTDL. This is a common language for describing credentials, credentialing organizations, quality assurance, and quite a bit of information about credentials, including competencies and competency frameworks. That came up earlier today, so I wanted to mention that. This language is used to determine what gets published to the registry It's used to validate information in the registry, and it's used to determine the minimum data that is allowed to be published into the registry so we can enforce some data quality. With the publishing of the credential information, we have multiple options. In the next slide, I'm going to go over those options with you. And then those publishing options get the outcome of that is the information is actually put into the Credential Engine registry. So this registry houses the only published credential information, and it makes it available to other applications or systems. So think about, for example, a career guidance application that maybe you're familiar with, that you use at your school or your students use as an example, and other kinds of applications that pull in information about credentials or credentialing programs. So what the Credential Engine intends to do is foster what we call an open applications marketplace. And to do that, the registry makes this data available. So to demonstrate it, the Credential Finder is a publicly available app, search prototype, that is a basic search to view all of the information that's been approved and published to the registry. So it's meant to just be a demo, and it's meant to be one of many ways of pulling in information in helpful ways from the registry. And this is all about community. So we consider every one of you participating in today's webinar a part of the community. We love feedback. We see this as incredibly dynamic. As you can imagine, the credential transparency description language has to change over time, and therefore all of this infrastructure has to be dynamic. And we have to base it on the community needs and feedback. So there's other ways that you can publish your credential information to the registry, and other ways you can participate as well to be a part of that community and ensure the technologies are working for everyone. So credentials published to the registry, this is as of yesterday. The registry was launched on December 7th. The Credential Engine now has staff, and we have these multiple publishing methods that I'm going to go over in just a moment. And so we expect these numbers to dramatically increase, but this is always a point of curiosity. So I wanted to let everyone know. You can see for yourself. This is only information published to the registry. You can see the URL here on the slides. These slides will be sent to you after the webinar, so no worries if you can't catch it right now. You'll be able to check it out later. And this is part of the Credential Finder. And so when you click on any of the blue text adjacent to the graphs that show the counts, it will actually be doing a search in the Finder for the credential information that has the information included in these counts. Okay, I'm going to talk about the publishing methods. So when I'm talking about publishing methods, I'm talking about the various ways that are available, supported through the Credential Engine technologies, to get your credential information into the Credential Registry. So among those ways are manual entry. We recommend this for small quantities of stable credentials. And if you think about, say, an online form that you enter information in, that's what it looks like. We're not going to necessarily dive into the manual entry today or do a demo. You will get a glimpse of it when we do the demo of the bulk upload. But this is one of the ways available to get the your credential information to the registry. Today, our big focus is on the bulk upload. And what we mean by that is, imagine a spreadsheet with the rows of the spreadsheet being the credentials. Some examples of where you get the information to populate the spreadsheet. Some of you have systems within your institutions or organizations that have credential information and from which you can do an export to a spreadsheet. And then you can augment that information. In our demo, we're going to show you more about that. But if you don't have a system where you can pull down or do an export or an extract to populate a spreadsheet, some organizations just simply find it easier and more helpful to do a bulk upload in a spreadsheet. And we're going to use an example today of a real partner who gave us permission to use their information as a demo, Participate Learning, who used a spreadsheet to upload over 60 credentials. They did not have a system that they could do an export from, but they had 2 people working in different locations in the U.S., and for them it was just easier to populate a spreadsheet and see the credential information in rows and then upload it. So our demo, you'll take a closer look at that. The other option currently is using APIs. And the API is when you have structured data, usually in an existing database or databases, it could be more than one, and you map your data to an endpoint and push to the registry. And there's options with that where you can publish for your own organization, or a third party could publish on behalf for you with your permission. It's important to know that the Credential Engine is not an aggregator. So if you think about, for example, Google, when you go search for things, clearly it's other people's information that you're searching for, so they're an aggregator. We're making available credential information that the owner of that information is aware of and has agreed to put into the registry. So there's multiple ways, and one of the upcoming ways that we'll also be including on this little picture here will be harvesting or consuming data from the web. But we'll be doing it based on websites using the credential transparency description language that I talked about a moment ago, and having that structured metadata available on the web that we can go basically harvest and then publish to the registry with their permission. No matter which type of publishing method that you decide to use that's best for your organization, there's a minimum data policy. And the minimum data policy is public information on the Credential Engine technical website that you can visit after this webinar, and you can get a really good sense for the minimum data that you would publish about your organization and about the related credential. We also encourage additional information, going beyond that minimum data, but we recognize that we don't want to have, barriers to publishing. We want organizations to be able to, publish what they can and build a bridge so you can publish additional information. For example, about the learning opportunities that prepare for a credential, about the assessments that one might have to take to earn the credential, about requirements to, get into the program or to earn the credential, related costs and things like that. And we'll look at some more examples once we get into the demo screen. Okay, so that's a little bit of a background. And for any of those publishing methods, the very first step that you will take is to set up an account. Setting up an account literally just takes a couple of minutes. It's super easy. Anyone who has online accounts has done this before, where you're going to have some users who will set up an account, set up a password, and then enter some information about your organization. So we know your organization name, just kind of common information, as well as the type of publishing method that you want to use. So thinking about, for example, you would say, I want to use the bulk upload. But you can check more than one. And so if you check more than one, we'll send you information on each of the methods that you're thinking about using so you can make an informed decision on the best method for you. So setting up an account is something you can do immediately following this webinar. Once you set up an account, the system will automatically send you emails, Credential Engine to let you know your account is set up. Credential Engine then approves the account request, and once the account request is approved, you receive an email with a direct link to log in and begin your publishing. Okay, so now that you know kind of the basics and how to get started with your account, we're going to do an overview of the bulk upload, and then Nate, who is on with me as well, will provide a demonstration for you so you can see what it looks like. So the bulk upload tool is intended to allow you to quickly add or update credential information in a tool that we call the publisher. And I'd like to distinguish that because the publisher is a tool for where you can work and nothing goes into the registry until you approve it. So this is your area where you work, and not until you indicate that you have approved the credentials that you put into the publisher will they go to the registry. And the bulk upload is using a spreadsheet. So you would create a spreadsheet, and we're going to show you more about what that looks like, as this page is going to give you a template that you can fill in, and you'll basically upload it, and it only takes minutes. So we'll cover two things that you'll need to know about. Uploading new credentials, and by that I mean new to the registry, meaning they haven't been published to the registry yet. So they may not be, new, meaning you didn't just create them. They may have been around for a while. But if you haven't published them yet to the registry, we're just calling that new. And so these are the steps that you'll complete. You'll complete your organization information. This is the organization that, owns and offers the credential. You'll select the properties or information that you want to include in a template spreadsheet that will show you in the demo. You'll download that template from the bulk upload page that is customized for you. You will fill it in with your data and then upload it to the publisher. Once you upload it to the publisher, you immediately see all of the information you uploaded. You can approve it, and then once you approve it, Credential Engine staff will publish it to the registry. Okay, so now that you've uploaded credentials, they're no longer new in the registry. So now you can update them. So you could add additional credentials at any time. You could also update your credential information in the registry at any time and then approve it to be published with those updates. So to do that, the bulk upload page that you will access that's customized for your organization, from there, you'll be able to download your existing credential data. So you don't have to keep track of that. Let this tool keep track of it for you. It will give you your credential data to date. So if you were to change anything, 5 minutes prior, you'll have the most current information. Then you can update data in the spreadsheet that you download, and I was using an example earlier today. For example, let's say I uploaded my credentials to the registry, and I've decided I really need to include the occupations that those credentials are intended to prepare for. So now I just want to do an update, and I want to include those occupations. So you could through this process, add more credentials, add occupations, and it's not an all or none. Maybe you've uploaded 60 credentials and only 40 of them will have occupation information. That's fine. Every credential is unique, but every credential will need to follow the minimum data policy. So just as you do when you first upload new credentials, you're going to review and you're going to approve, and then Credential Engine will publish your update to the registry. So that's kind of the nutshell of it, and you're going to see all this in the demo. I'm going to really breeze over these next 3 or so 4 slides because you're going to see these in the demo. I wanted to include them in the PowerPoint, so when you receive a copy of the PowerPoint in your email, you will have it as a reference, so you don't have to, log in to see the screen. So we're going to demo this, but the first step is to complete your organization information. This gives you an idea of what the screen looks like. Now, when you created your account, you entered some information about your organization. All of that information synced up to this web page, and it pre-populated it for you. So what you'll be doing is basically augmenting that information to meet the minimum data requirements and to add additional information, beyond that. Obviously, we encourage going beyond the minimum data. Now, in this particular case, this particular organization has more than one address. We can see that on the screen here. And I like to note that because some of you may have one address where you physically go to get credentials. Some of you may have them online or both. And some of you may have many addresses or multiple addresses in a combination of online. So you can describe your credentials with both. You can identify if they're offered at specific locations. You can identify if they're offered online. Okay, so the next step is to select your properties, your information, and when Nate does a screen share in just a moment, you'll get a better feel for that. But basically what you're going to see is what is currently available with the bulk upload. Now, with all of the Credential Engine technologies, as I mentioned earlier, they're all dynamic, they're ever-changing. We fully expect to expand upon what is currently available through the bulk upload, although you will see a lot is already available, so there's nothing to stop you from using it now, but we will be expanding it. And here's where you could see that upload new credentials and update existing credentials, and we'll show you that in the demo as well. So once you've selected the information that you want to upload, what will happen is it will generate a spreadsheet for you that you will download. So picture the columns of the spreadsheet include all of the information you selected through your custom bulk upload page and a sample of what it looks like, how you populate it, which Nate will show you in just a moment. So you're going to download and populate your spreadsheet. Once you've downloaded and populated it, you upload it. You can browse to it just like you do other files, from your, say, your desktop, or you can drop and drag it in there. You're going to preview it, and Nate's going to give you a peek at what that looks like. It's pretty nifty. And then there's a summary page that you'll go to and approve. So all in all, it could take maybe, if we're doing the upload itself and then approving is only minutes. And you'll see that in our demo. And again, these are real screenshots, so you can have them in the PowerPoint as a reference after the webinar demo. This screenshot shows what that summary looks like. So now I've uploaded my credentials. I can see all of them in the publisher. I can see the details. I can review. I can edit. And then off to the right there, as you'll see when we do the demo, I can select all, and I can approve them all at one time, or I can approve them one by one, or I could just edit some. And we'll show you that in just a moment as well. So I'm going to pause here at these action items that we will jump back to after the demo. And I'm going to stop sharing. And Nate's going to go ahead and grab that screen share, and let me pause for a moment while we're switching over and let me answer some questions. All right, let me see here. So somebody has graciously been rounding up questions for me and putting them off to the side. If I miss any, Carrie or Nate, let me know. I see the chat's been going, which is awesome. Okay, what is the advantage to filling in the template versus simply using manual entry? Yeah, that was a question that came up this morning. It was just a good general question. And I think the advantage is if you have a system, first of all, where you can download, then the advantage is clearly a time saving and populating at least part of a spreadsheet. The other, I think, is just also a time saver and just ease of use. So we're not going to get too much into seeing what it looks like to manually enter them, but imagine an online form, right, where one at a time you're describing credentials independent of the other. So that is far more time consuming than populating rows of a spreadsheet. With that, Participate Learning, our partner whose real information we're using because they actually did the bulk upload, It was really easy and time-saving for them. They didn't have a system they could download from to populate a spreadsheet, but they had two people in different locations. They saved it as a Google Sheet so they could both work on it, and then they downloaded it. And it was just easier for them to see everything all in one place. And can you use the bulk upload and manual entry together? Yes, you'll get a glimpse of that when we do the demo. I like to say it's not an all or none. So you can upload, then you could say, for example, oh, well, there's 2 credentials that I really want more information in. Instead of doing an update through the bulk upload, you'll see when Nate gets to that part of the demo, you could just edit it directly into that manual entry. And then if anything that you change, you let the system track it for you. So later, when you're ready to do an update, you'll see that you can download the latest information. So yes, they can work together. It's not an all or none, and I think that will make it really easy. Does it cost anything to add data to the registry? Oh, great question. Absolutely not. No. There's no cost at all, that includes time with us. So we also want everyone to know it's not as though we just expect you, to not have any questions or not need any assistance. So you can have access to the staff and all of the publishing options that are available, and there's absolutely no fees nor any intention of any fees. And does the registry collect competency information? Yes, it does. We feel the competency information is a critical piece of information that we encourage to include with your credential information. Now, we're not going to get into the competency information today. We're going to be doing additional webinars that you'll want to keep an eye out for, and one of them will be, honed in on competency frameworks and referencing competencies with credentials, learning opportunities, and assessments. And Nate, I see, is answering the chat. That's great. For those who maybe aren't reading the chat, I think it's important that we also kind of verbalize. Were there any other questions? No? Okay. If there aren't any other questions, let's take a look at the bulk upload. So you've set up your account. Credential Engine approved the account. You received your email with a direct link and some instructions to get started. And what you'll see is a page that we call bulk upload, but it will be customized for you. So at the very top of that page, and this is a real web page, and it's for Participate, who I mentioned earlier. You can see Nate can kind of move his cursor over there to draw attention to it. At the very top of the page is pre-populated to signal to you this is your web page with your custom information about your organization. Just below that, there's a little introduction, and you can see there's a little, just a high-level kind of listing of uploading new and updating existing credentials. And the slides we just went over have this information, so I won't go over it again. But I want to draw attention to the right side of the page where you can print this page. It's printer-friendly. So let's say you're meeting with colleagues or you're having a staff meeting or a team meeting and you want to be able to convey this and everybody doesn't want to log in or whatever, you could actually print this out. You could save it as a PDF. And when we go down a little bit, we'll revisit this because you're going to see the section where you select the information, and if you go to print the page, it will show everything that you selected. So we'll customize that printed page for you based on what you selected from the options. And there's also a contact us that goes to the online contact form that Credential Engine team checks, working hours every day, so they can immediately get back to you and answer your questions. If needed, we will meet with you in a screen share in a webinar similar to this, or send an email, talk on the phone, whatever is helpful. Hey Nate, how about scroll down a little bit to the first step there? And the first step is to complete your organization. So this looks just like the screenshot that you just saw on the slides. And as I had mentioned, if you want to pop that little panel open there, Nate, you're going to see that the page is set up to be interactive. Anywhere you see those little gray bars with an arrow means click on it and open up those panels. The panels are closed so you can easily see the steps, and then you can drill down into the content that you want to look at. So here I had mentioned that your organization information that you already entered, you don't have to do it twice. The information from your account already synced up over here, so any information that you entered about your account that's relevant to the public goes in here, but then you can augment it. And so this tells you to basically click Edit, and then you're presented with the manual entry part, and that's in this case the only part initially where you would want to do any manual entry, but this tells you what it looks like. So here it's pre-populated with whatever you picked in your account. You could change it if you needed to correct something, and then you augment it with the required information. Red means it's that minimum data requirement, and of course we want to encourage going beyond that. So you can add your additional information and save it, and that will publish to the publisher tool along with your upload. Now on the screen, as I had mentioned earlier, you can see this particular place has multiple addresses. For some of you, I like to use the example of Ivy Technical College. It's located in Indiana. So the state of Indiana Community College System has one college called Ivy Tech with many addresses all over the state. And not every credential is available at every address. So for their bulk upload, this was really important. And you can manually enter those addresses up here with your organization, or you could put them in a spreadsheet. And again, sometimes it's just easier to see information in those rows and columns, and then you simply browse to it, you upload it, and you'll see all of the addresses will show up on this page. And you can update them at any time. Nate, anything else we should cover about the organization or the addresses?
Did you want to look at the bulk upload of addresses real quick here?
Sure, we can take a look at that. And so this is a way to download the template for addresses. So you can either manually enter them, or if you have a lot of addresses or just feel it's easier to bulk upload them, you would fill out the template here. You can see the columns that are included. You basically fill those out, and then you save it, and then you basically browse to that file and upload it. And once you do that, it will pop in just above where Nate just opened that bulk upload up. It'll pop right in there, and you'll see all the information that you uploaded. And you could either use the manual editor, or you could use the upload to upload those addresses at any time. Let's head on down to the select your properties, step 2. So you can see here that it's showing upload new credentials. If Nate were to click on update existing credentials, this page is going to change. So the page is customized for your organization to show information pertinent only to you, as well as if you click update existing credentials, the page will toggle, and it will show the information you need to know about updating existing credentials. And we'll go back to that in a minute. Let's head back over to the upload new credentials. So for the upload new credentials, go ahead and click that, yeah. We could see below that there were some panels. There were required properties, required if available, recommended, and optional. These align to that minimum data policy that I showed you earlier. And you'll notice if Nate clicks on those required properties, they're pre-checked. Off to the right there, it says include this property. And you can't uncheck those because the registry requires you to include the minimum required data. But the great news is now you can mix and match. So let's say there's things that are required if available that you just don't have or aren't applicable. There's nothing to stop you from, basically picking other properties. So it's whatever is relevant. And again, it's not an all or none. So you don't have to have that for every single credential. You just want to have those columns available to the credentials where they're pertinent. So it's not an all or none. You can pick and choose from any of those sections. So Nate was just picking some things, and you could see that off to the left there is the property or the information. Adjacent to it there is information about it. Could you go up a little bit to the heading for that, Nate, so we could see the column? Yeah, so we can see it's a description and an example. Next to that we can see any special requirements. So for example, in your spreadsheet, let's say you want to include, say, 5 occupations with a credential. You can do that. And so this tells you when you can have multiple words or multiple things in any given cell in a spreadsheet, and how to, what you need to put between those things as an example. And every time you're selecting, that is influencing the template that you'll download. So you can check mark things that you want to include, but then you could change your mind and say, well, I want to add 3 more things, and then just download another template because it's going to pre-populate it. The columns are going to be everything you selected, and then you're going to see that there's a sample. Also, depending on what you check marked here, if Nate were to go back up to the top of the page and print it, it would print out based on what you picked. So if you have nothing check marked, it'll print out everything so you can see all of the information currently available. If you check mark things, it'll limit it to that. So if you wanted to have a way of sharing this information, say you're meeting with a team, one of your options is to print the page or save it as a PDF to share. Okay, so going on back down, that gives you a good idea of the properties or the information that you can include. Now, we do expect to expand this. So you can see there are quite a few, what we call properties or information that you can include. That it's a range from, duration, how long does it take to earn it? I keep reading of occupations. What occupations does this credential prepare for? What are the subjects associated with this credential? So you can see those are just some examples. Levels. What is the level, intended level of this credential for an audience? What language is it in? Is there an image? Actually, Participate Learning uploaded badges and they had images. So if you look in the Credential Finder after this, you can take a look at their credentials and see their images. So you can see there's quite a bit, but we will be further expanding it. So what we would like you to do is go ahead and get your account set up, upload as much as you can now. We'll let you know as additional options are available so you can even expand it further. So Nate, why don't you go ahead and go on down, or would you like to talk more about the properties? Is there anything? Okay.
No, I think you covered.
Okay, so I picked, and now I'm going to download my template. So that's based on what I selected above. And again, if I change my mind, I could uncheck things, add more check marks. So there's no issue at all here. It's just generating a spreadsheet, generate as many as your heart desires. And you can see that each credential would be a row, and each column is a related description that was selected. So that's the column header. And then the row 2 is a sample. And that sample corresponds to that web page that we were just looking at that included descriptions and samples. If you accidentally leave that row in there, no worries, the upload will ignore it. So that's what the spreadsheet looks like. Now you can begin to populate it. So you'd want to, of course, save it. Your spreadsheet, and now you would want to put your information in. So this is a spreadsheet that Participate Learning did. So these are real credentials that are actually in the Credential Finder because they've been published to the registry. And they started off using a Google Sheet just because it was easier. Then they downloaded it, they saved it, and uploaded it. So you could see the columns are there. They filled in the information in the columns. And Nate is going to actually upload this so you can see what it looks like, and you're going to see a preview of how the bulk upload tool then kind of cleans this up and gives you a nice view, unlike Excel, so you could see everything that was in those cells. And here, Nate just did a drag and drop, or you could have browsed to it. You see it immediately picked up on all of the columns and rows in that spreadsheet. You can see it's a much cleaner view. And as I mentioned, in those columns like keywords or occupations where you can have more than one in a cell, you could see how it now shows a nice readable listing of those things. So you could preview that. If you needed to change it, you don't have to continue. You could re-upload it. But this one is ready to go. And assuming that we did clear it out from this morning, Nate should be able to save this data to the publisher. Now note it's going to take 1 minute and it looks like 28 seconds, I think, Nate. So yeah, and so we'll just talk while that's uploading. So Nate, tell us a little bit more about what's going on now.
Well, what it's doing is processing each row. I think it takes about 2 or 3 seconds per row generally, depending on how much information there is. It's going to be running it through the usual checks to make sure there's minimum data, that there's valid data, even where it's not required, things like that. It's going to be looking for any associations if you've included, say, condition profiles or things like that. It'll be wiring all that up behind the scenes. Ultimately, what it leads to is a link that will take you off to the search where you'll be able to see the stuff that was just uploaded. Once that finishes, we'll see that here. We'll also see the results. If there's any errors, it'll show those. While we're waiting on that, we did have a couple of questions come up in the chat. Let's see, I'm hoping I'm not missing any, but I think Gwen asks, for institutions who already have existing credentials in the Credential Engine, will there be an annual request for them to update their existing data, or will that be up to the institution to determine the update?
Yeah. So the answer to that is yes.
I think it's covered somewhere in the currency policy toward the bottom, I think.
Yeah, the answer to that is yes.
I think it's, yeah.
I see Carrie answered, but it's good to verbalize these as well in case people miss them in the chat. So Carrie did answer, but that's part of the currency policy. So if you take a look at that minimum data policy, on that page is also a currency policy, and basically, we're going to prompt anyone who published credentials to incrementally, update their information, for quality purposes. And the next.
All right, and then
Go ahead.
Cynthia had a question too.
Yeah.
If I want to include similar info to what is already there, are they called the same? They call the same name as on the spreadsheet in the live version of Credential Engine. So are you asking about updating information that already exists, or including new credentials with that?
Oh, well, there's an example here, Nate. So Cynthia, thanks. So you have your health degrees in right now. You want to bulk upload the rest of them. Yeah, you can do that. And so what you'll do is you'll be able to download all of the credentials you already have in there. So if you're not sure, completely sure which of those credentials you've already done, you'll be able to download them and then narrow down the additional. And then, yes, you can bulk upload those additional credentials without affecting what you've already done. We'll take a look at the update option as well that you may find helpful through the bulk upload for those that you've already uploaded. Okay, so that 1 minute went by, and what happened was it was validating, it was making sure all the data was correct, it didn't find any errors, it identified every single row, and it gave you a link to click here and view your data. So Nate's going to go ahead and click on that. And when we take a look at a moment at what we call the Credential Finder, you'll see this looks a lot like it. And so it went from being a spreadsheet to giving more context to show, how people may see it. A spreadsheet is perfect for the bulk upload, but it's not the way, we want to show it to the public. So this is one view here. And if Nate were to click edit on any of those, you could edit from here. And again, so it's not an all or none. Every credential does not have to have all the information that you select for your columns. Every credential must have the minimum. And then you can combine the power of the bulk upload with the power of the manual entry if you had to tweak one or two rather than, upload them again. But what I'd like Nate to show is the kind of mass approval view. So now that you've, completed your spreadsheet, you uploaded them, there's a summary page, and it shows all of the credentials that you just uploaded. And you could go directly to the details, you could review each one individually, you could edit any one of them or not. And then way off to the right, you could, if you wanted to, do a select all at the top there, and you can approve them to be published all at one time. So if you've already know the information in your spreadsheet is correct, you don't necessarily want to have to re-look at every single one of them if you have a large quantity. You don't have to. You would select all, you would click approve. You could see it's going through and it's changing them all to show that you approve them. And all of this is in the publisher. Nothing is in the registry yet. This is your work area where you're safe. Your data is there. It's not published yet. But now that you've approved it, Credential Engine team has been notified. Now they will publish it to the registry. And as soon as they publish it to the registry, well, it takes about 2 minutes. Once they publish it to the registry, then you'll be able to see the credential information that you've approved and been published in the Credential Finder. Why don't we take a quick look at that, Nate, and then we'll come back and show the update part of it. So credentialsigner.org is a search app prototype. It's just aimed at an example application. We're still working on it, but I think it is very helpful for everyone. It's a great way to see what you publish and to see how now we can have this transparent and comparable information. And so, Nate, just go ahead and click on the first credential there in the list, and we can see, all the information that they published here from the Finder. And just in case we have any technical folk on this webinar, I do like to point out that no matter how you publish to the registry, between that publishing option and the registry itself is an API. And the job of that API is to format the data. And, well, it checks it, it makes sure it, it validates it, it checks it, makes sure it meets the requirements before it publishes it, but it also formats it into JSON LD. And so if on any of those pages on the Credential Finder that have details of information, in the bottom right-hand corner, you can click JSON LD and literally see what the data looks like in the registry. So it's all formatted as JSON LD. For those who are like, oh, I don't even know what you're talking about, what's that? What's important for you to know is that is the preferred format used by Google. So think about how you use Google in your, in your like day-to-day lives for searching for information, and you see really great interfaces for, say, sports scores or finding a hotel. It's not magical, it's metadata. And the preferred way that Google gets that is through JSON LD. So that API can also give that JSON LD back to you to use within your own environment or maybe even on your website. So that was just a really quick example of going to the Credential Finder. So once you publish your information, once you've approved it, Credential Engine publishes it. Wait like 2 minutes and bam, you're going to see it in the Finder. What happens is the data, as it gets published, it's showing the most recent published first, and then there's a search with it, so you can search for credentials by credential, credentialing organization, and many other kind of attributes about that credential. You'll see there's many ways to filter and look for credential information. Nate, anything to add to that before we jump back over to look at the update? Okay.
No, I think you covered it.
Yeah.
We did have a question come in the chat.
Why review by Credential Engine team? Because you know, these are all new technologies. We launched on December 7th. We want to make sure that everybody is comfortable. It's just kind of a safety net. We want to make sure that everything looks fine once it's published, to make sure there aren't any, you know, bugs or anything in the system. You know, if there are any questions or whatever we had, we could quickly, you know, take a look and get back to you, you know, to talk them over. So it's really just a safety net, and in the long run, we don't expect to continue to do that forever. We just want to make sure, as you know, we're all working together to really move this forward and increase that quantity, that everything is working properly.
Right, and the other kind of reason that we do that is to make sure that the schema is being used correctly, just to make sure the right data is going in the right fields. Things that couldn't be caught by an automated validation, to make sure, you know, you're putting the description in the description field, that kind of thing. There's some more complicated fields further down the schema that we want to make sure are being used right, so that it helps us improve our documentation and our guidance as well.
It's meant to be a winner for everyone. And there's another question, thanks Bob, what does single and multiple mean? You saw that when you were looking at the listing of properties there, and if you think about a row and a column in a spreadsheet, it meant, is it a single value that goes in that cell, such as a description, you know, like a sentence or a paragraph or whatever, or multiple would mean, for example, occupations or keywords or subjects, things that could be multiple of, and they need to be parsed out as multiple. So there's 5 keywords, we need to recognize them as 5 independent keywords as an example. That's what that means. Let me know if that wasn't, if you prefer a clarification. And this is a question that came up earlier. What if I upload information incorrectly? How do I undo it? Well, you can, first of all, if remember, you're in the publisher, you haven't actually, nothing's in the registry yet. It's not until you approve it. So you can delete everything, start completely over, and then you saw that you can, it's not a all or none. You can combine bulk uploading with manually correcting things as well. So in other words, you have options, so no worries there. You can undo what you did, you know, start all over again, or just do corrections there in the manual editor, or any combination. All right, so Nate went back to the bulk upload page for Participate, and now we're just going to take a look at it from the aspect of updating the existing credentials. So again, by the new credentials, we meant new to the registry. Now we have uploaded them, approved them, and published them, and now we want to update them. And so to do that, this page has now changed. You can still look at all of the properties and identify properties that you want to include with an update. But you can also download, you know, everything that you've already uploaded or manually changed, so you don't have to keep track of that separately. You can just get the latest information directly from here. And so let's say, you know, you wanted to try it out, you're got it, you were able to do all the minimum information, and now you wanted to come back and out of those 40 or whatever it is that Nate just uploaded, say 20 of them you want to add occupations. Now you can include that column and include that information to do your update. And so then you would do it so basically nothing else would change. Or you could add additional credentials, add occupations to some. So it's not an all or none. You can just continue to add new and continue to update, and always get your most recent information right here from this page. Nate, do you want to add anything to that?
Did we want to go through any of the rules and recommendations and tips and whatnot for updating data, or is that kind of beyond the?
I don't think we need to get into those kinds of details. What Nate's showing there is our examples on the page there, and things like, you don't have to worry about spaces, because that's something that, I know when I do something I get like overly I want it to be perfect, and so I start to worry, oh, do I have to have a space here? We'll ignore that. So it explains things like, don't worry if you put a space here and left out a space here, it's going to ignore spaces. So it gives you, some tips such as the one I just explained literally is there as well. And then, for those of you who use Excel, you know how Excel tries to be, helpful and will display messages. So when you go to save the file to upload it, you'll actually save it as a comma-separated value file. It still looks exactly like Excel, but sometimes you'll see like a little pop-up message. So these are just tips and additional information to help out. Okay, so we picked additional things we want to add. We downloaded our most current information. And now, again, we would populate our spreadsheet with that additional information. So, and then we could upload it, right, Nate? So we would go down, and we're not actually going to re-upload again, but yeah, so you would just browse to it, and same process. Approve your credentials. Once you approve it, Credential Engine will then go ahead and publish. Once Credential Engine publishes, give it like 2 minutes, and you will find those credentials in the Credential Finder. All right, so Nate, anything else we should cover? And let's see, it looks like we're caught up on the questions. Let's go ahead at this point. Destiny, if you could, I don't know if we have people on the phone or if everyone's by microphone. Thanks for keeping that chat going on, but we do want to make sure those of you who might want to ask a question or make a comment that you have that opportunity as well. So microphones, you're not muted. Destiny, confirm the phones are not muted. Great.
Yes, I'm unmuting.
So yeah, any other additional questions, put them in the chat or feel free to speak. We should be able to hear you.
So Gwen asks if there can be more than one account for each institution. Do you mean more than one user account or more than one, I guess, organization account? Because we do allow multiple users for a given organization.
Yeah, there should always be one organization, but your organization could have as many individuals who have access as you see fit. And so let's say you already have an organization in there and you already have an account. You could add colleagues to your account. I'm hearing some usage. We're not getting any questions yet. Nice effect. So we'll go ahead and remute everyone.
Yeah, anyone that you grant permissions to within your organization can update stuff for that organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so once you have an account, you'll see that you can invite your colleagues in. They receive an email, they confirm their account, and that's how you can give them access, and then they can get in there and do their updates. I see some other folks are typing there in the chat. We'll give everyone another minute. And Nate, since it doesn't look like we need to show anything else on your screen, you want to turn it back to me while we're waiting for those questions, and I'll get it back onto the conclusion of the PowerPoint.
Another question there. That would still be one user account. We do enable associating someone with multiple organizations.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you wouldn't have 7 different logins. Ooh, that'd be terrible, wouldn't it? SIU, we have been it's kind of a long story. My team, we've been part of Credential Engine prior to it being Credential Engine. It was called the Credential Transparency Initiative. We're the team that developed all of the technologies. And so we are, yes, a partner. So, you know, we don't really even think of us as like separate. We just work very closely together on the goals of Credential Engine. So, yeah, thanks for asking. There's other technical folk who work on this project with us, but we're the lead. Yes, and there are others. And, you know, very broadly, there are many partners with Credential Engine. There's, you know, multiple large advisory groups. There's a technical advisory group that we invite. It's open. It's not a nomination group, and so anyone is welcome to join that group. And, you know, we have many partners who publish to the registry, who participate with various work groups to give us feedback and so forth, as well as groups who are actually working and developing all of the technologies that we talked about today. Credential Engine is not federally funded. It is privately funded by multiple foundations currently, including JP Morgan Chase and Lumina, who have provided multiple years of funds. And we also have a sustainability plan to offer services. I believe that funders will always want to invest in Credential Engine because our services are vital, but there are also services that will be of great value that will generate fees. However, we do not foresee ever, you know, charging to publish to the registry. All of that is open. We want to encourage as many, you know, organizations as possible to publish to the registry. So no federal funds, 0. And let's see what else we have here. See some more typing. Well, while that typing is going on, I just want to draw your attention. You should see my conclusion of the slides. Again, these slides, in addition to recording the webinar, we'll make sure everyone gets that recording, but we'll also send you the PowerPoint so you can have easy access to those screens, for example, that were in here, and these action items. So after this webinar, set up your account. Go to the credentialengine.org accounts page. Set up your account just like any other website where you create an account. You would put in your username and password, confirm it, enter your organization information, select the publishing method that's best for you, and you can pick more than one. If bulk upload is the method for you, pick that. Credential Engine staff is reviewing those. They will approve it. You will automatically receive an email from the account system with a direct link and instructions, and you'll be able to get immediate access to that bulk upload page that's customized for your organization, so you can start uploading and approving your credentials. Credential Engine team will then publish those approved credentials, then take a look in the Finder and check them out. Also, we'll be scheduling additional webinars. I had mentioned that earlier. We'll talk about other publishing methods. And another thing we're going to talk about are competencies, publishing competency frameworks and references to competencies with your credential information. And let's see here. Jay has a question. Does the Illinois Department of Workforce still use publication in credential and as validation of approved programs to put their dollars towards? So we're talking to the state of Illinois now about kind of a combined effort with Credential Engine and another system to do what you're asking about. I really can't talk about that too much right now. Jay, perfectly good question, and it's definitely something that would be beneficial to states. And just because you brought up Illinois specifically, I would like to mention that recently Credential Engine offered an RFP to states to implement kind of a statewide approach that you're alluding to, Jay, to publish to the registry. And Carrie, I believe, has a listing of the initial states that were given, that were awarded based on their proposals, and we expect to expand that over time. So it is one of the strategies. So we have kind of a grassroots and the state level as well. And Cynthia has a question. Can you log in and update to bulk upload as my publishing? I don't think it was available for setup. Yeah, this is new. When you log in to the account system that you see that URL on your screen, and yeah, you can update to select bulk upload, and be sure and save that and submit it with your information. And when you do, then that you know, the system that I told you about kicks in, where then you'll receive an email. You can get access, and you can go ahead and begin your uploading. Carrie, thanks for putting that state partner link in there. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're working with multiple states around the U.S., so lots of exciting things happening here. All right. Okay, it looks like things are slowing down in the chat. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We don't need the entire hour and a half that was allocated to this, so we certainly don't need to keep anyone on unnecessarily. So I think we're going to be closing the webinar. Let's see if we are, the chat is, yep, there we go. So Carrie, you want to go ahead and say some closing remarks?
Sure, I just want to draw people's attention to the chat box. To stay up to date on new webinars we're offering, new tools and resources, please sign up for our newsletter. You can find that at www.credentialengine.org. Also, keep an eye out for a follow-up email that will have information about setting up your account, a link to the account, this PowerPoint presentation, as well as a link to a YouTube video recording of this webinar. You can also find out more about us and figure out the latest and greatest by following us on social media. We are at Cred Engine on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. For any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can find more information by emailing events@credentialengine.org. And without any further questions, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you at the next one.